Good morning. I hope you all are doing well. So, today we are again here to talk with one of the co authors of Talking Fingers. Coming together, empowering parents, creating inclusive community. We at Spectrum are working towards this. Talking Fingers, Voices of 16 Indian Non Speaking Autistics, a path breaking book that received amazing response, is back with the second volume of the book. As part of our series, Meet the Authors of Talking Fingers, today we have with us Mini Divedi, mom of Dyutit, one of the co authors of the book, as she shares her experience about the role of a mother figure in raising a child under spectrum. Mini Devedi, The Wind Beneath the Wings of Dwitit, the co-author of the book Talking Fingers, Voices of Indian Non-Speaking Autistics, is a relationship development intervention consultant and an award winning coach for guiding families with children in autism spectrum and other development disabilities with various cutting edge services through her organization called Play Street, Specially Abled Educare Trust in Bangalore, India. Mini Divedi Gopinath and her organization has been helping children with different and additional needs for over a decade to help them realize their full potential through empowering parents by imparting the knowledge on latest researches, approaches, and treatment. So, from the inception of Play Street since 2012, the journey of Play Street has been rewarding as it has curated many meaningful services and awareness programs to help the families and individuals with special needs. So, Mini Ma'am has been awarded with many platforms for her contributions to bring excellence in supporting families with special needs in many different ways. So, we are happy and honored to have her on this platform. So, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure is ours. So let's begin with the session. So, as a parent, your journey as a mother of Dyutit, from diagnosis to his role as a co-author, could you just tell us, our audience, share your journey?
Yes, it was quite a journey, as I can say. As we all know, when a child is born, we have so many ambitions and so many dreams, uh, and everything comes crashing the day we realize that we get a diagnosis of any kind. And autism is especially, in my personal opinion, as more and more I'm learning about autism, more and more I think how less I know about autism. So it is such a complex disorder that just knowing one aspect or working on one aspect isn't enough. And if I really tell you my journey, it covers all the aspects of autism, from sensory needs to the motor difficulties, the emotional regulation, to the sense of self, sense of competence, then the acceptance by the society, right? Denial as a parent, and then the journey from denial to acceptance to unconditional love. So I would say the journey encompasses all the phases. Um, uh, Not being understood by the community, or not getting right services, not getting a place in a mainstream school. So there's so many factors which I have seen. See, for example, let me tell you, I belong to a family of educators. So from generations, like my great grandparents, they were very well known educators, and then my both the parents, very well known educators. My mother is a President's Award winner. She's no more. I mean, my father is no more. And my father was also a very great educator and an administrator in the educational field. And and then the focus of education in my family, the way I am also so much academic inclined, and then you realize that there is no single school in this entire country where there is actually a school every kilometer you find a school, but there is no single school who's ready to take your child. So, from generations, you have contributed so much. in the education sector of this country. That thought, that experience itself was very heartbreaking. That just because the child is neurodiverse or child is not understood or he's different, and you know we have billions of schools in our country. It's not that the numbers are less. It's such a huge business, and so that itself was I would say point, a turning point in my life that there's no single school which can support my child. So of me, I I am someone who's privileged enough to help my child and support my child. But what about others then? There's so many people still not as privileged or as equipped to be able to support their child. And see, that is the point of my journey, which actually made me to take a step ahead, and that's how the Play Street was born. But today I'm not going to talk much about Play Street because this as a mom. Today I really want to talk about me as his mother. So journey from his diagnosis to becoming his co-author. Let me tell you the initial challenges when we realized that he was autistic. Definitely, he stopped playing gradually, declining, and he started being very aloof. Play wasn't meaningful, and I would try to use a lot of neurodiverse affirming terminology because I believe in it. So something called self-soothing behaviors. Though we know this as stimming, I don't use the word stimming. It's self-soothing behaviors because now I understand why my child is doing it. His self-soothing behaviors, especially flapping, was so high, and he used to flap so much that it was very difficult to get into his world. And you know, sometimes I really used to think the way he flaps his hands are going to become the wings, and he will become a bird and he will fly one day. He will leave me. He will literally fly. Because I'm also a very like a literary person, and I also imagine a lot of things. And this is what the way he used to flap. And initial journey, when I was also very kind of worried about his flapping, I used to think that because he's flapping, he isn't learning. But now I know how wrong I was, how wrong this whole uh, concept is. So I also did the wrong things initially, like asking him to stop flapping, or basically one therapist, one back he asked me to tie his hands. So I actually did all those heinous things, which now I feel so guilty about that. Actually, one day I tied his hands, not very gently. It's not in a very, but in a very with a very gentle scarf, so that I can basically I can be with him or he can be with me. This journey, I also want to tell you that I do understand now. I understand everything that why my children are going through the self-soothing behaviors. But as a parent, it was very overwhelming for me. So see now when a lot of parents they come to me and they raise this concern that my child stuns a lot. I know I do tell them that don't worry about it, it's their need. But at the same time, I can also empathize that what an overwhelming journey they also would be going through because that was too overwhelming for me, tapping whole day. So that kept him away from us for so many years because I was not able to enter his world. And I think that's how I started looking for approaches which were more connection based. There, I think the strategies like include his interests. So then I learned that how through flapping I can connect with him. So including his interests and interpreting what he's doing. That was very important. So then in the journey, I understood that whenever he's doing that, so it's a communication. Every action is a communication. So again, because I use neurodiverse affirming practice, I do not use the word behavior. Behavior has a very negative connotation. I always use the word action. So every action which my child is doing, there is an underlying reason. So when you take the path of clinical reasoning, there's a field called clinical reasoning. Really want to understand, look into what is going in my child. Is he very anxious? Is he very excited? Is this reason sensory? He's not able to feel his body. So by giving the rhythmic inputs, he's trying to feel his body. because there's a task to be done for which he requires his body and he's not
Hmm.
feeling it. So that
Correct.
is taking him to anxiety. So then, that helped me to understand that it's not that my child isn't willing to do things, but there are difficulties because of which, whenever there is a challenge, either an
Hmm.
under challenge or an over challenge, or too
Hmm.
much of excitement, or a hormonal rush, or any reason, underlying reason, which could be
Hmm.
biological or environmental, my child
Hmm.
starts stimming. And that's what
Hmm.
we lose him.
Hmm. Correct.
We lost him for hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years, like that it is, right?
Hmm.
And from that, now you think of a Dyutit who can type beautiful answers. And then the next step in the journey was to understand the importance of communication over speech. So
Hmm.
it's not that we didn't work on speech, we worked a lot on speech, and Judith is a verbal child who can talk, communicate so well. But yes, clarity isn't there, dyspraxic component is pretty high. But Judith is the first child who received OPT in India.
Okay.
So he has been quite instrumental, in introducing OPT to India. So communication, as I said. So then typing also wasn't easy, writing also wasn't easy, right? That whole
Hmm.
journey of PECs and picture-based communication, and that's when we created our own app called Play Talk. And the
Hmm.
way Play Talk is designed is like the way I wanted to bring so much of play and spontaneous interaction into picture. So the app also designed in such a way that we can help our children communicate through play. So I
Hmm.
think that was the starting point, and then started working on typing. So a lot of fun typing apps. Like there was one app. Now I remember a Tapkins one was one app, but now it is not available anymore. I was searching for one of my families, but it's not available anymore. So like those
Okay.
Tapkins, basically, which helps him to, in a very structured way, helps him to know the QWERTY keyboard. So that is the motor part of it. But then what about the emotion part, the thought part,
Hmm.
the inner
Hmm.
language?
Hmm.
Connecting him to himself.
Hmm.
That is what I learned through RDI.
Okay.
Relationships, right? How do I connect with my child through a relationship based model for him to know about himself? So
Hmm.
regulation is that foundation which we have where
Hmm.
any child, any infant, after 2 months of age, learns about himself through a caregiver.
Correct.
Such a beautiful process, and we all go through that. But we just
Hmm.
don't realize how important this process is. Such a huge foundation this process is, where I learn about myself, my
Hmm.
environment. Environment is everything. The people, objects, the way people talk, the way people interact with me, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How do I learn about myself through others? And that becomes the
Hmm.
foundation of my growth and development, my mental development I'm talking
Okay.
about, not physical.
Hmm.
So
Correct.
definitely, so I think with co-regulation, and
Hmm.
as I started becoming an RDI consultant, and when I
Hmm.
became an RDI consultant, yeah, more and
Hmm.
more I knew about it. I think more
Hmm.
and more I also started following those practices on a
Hmm.
on a continuous basis, right? So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
I think helped him to 1 second, I think. That helped us to help him to connect to his inner language, his thought, his inner self. I think
Hmm.
that's how he really started answering very beautifully. He
Hmm.
really amazed us
Hmm.
with his answers. Even today, the answers which he has come up with. I mean, I was like, I always feel very elated and proud that, okay, such a beautiful thought process. And not only him, every child I have interacted with or I've seen in Talking Fingers or even other places also
Hmm.
where they're using AC.
Hmm.
Then definitely the sensory and the motor aspects, we
Hmm.
focus a lot.
Hmm.
I basically very firm believer of understanding the sensory and motor difficulties in our children, and I integrate everything I do with sensory and motor,
You. Hmm.
helping him to understand his sensory world and learn to cope up. And he has to cope up
Hmm.
himself. From externally,
Hmm.
I can't help much. So he has to
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
this internal mechanism of
Hmm.
coping up. So I would say
Hmm.
uh, uh, I learned a lot, but I would say he's my
Hmm.
teacher. He's my friend, philosopher, and guide. He paved my path of learning, that what I should focus on. So, for example, I didn't choose ABA as my path.
Hmm.
So ABA was
Hmm.
so popular, like
Hmm.
just. But I didn't choose that path. But it didn't guide me
Hmm.
on that. He put me on the
Hmm.
path of where relationships are more important, where
Hmm.
believing a child is more important, where presuming
Hmm.
competence is more important, where
Hmm.
like so the whole philosophy, the place it was started, and our mission statement is accept, understand, play, believe. It comes from
Okay.
Dyutit, like accept the difference,
Hmm.
understand the challenges,
Hmm.
nurture them in a joyful way. Joy should
Hmm.
be a very important factor in their life, and
Hmm.
believe in them.
Hmm. Hmm.
They will make us feel proud. So accept, understand, play, believe. So I would say this is the journey of or like of his
You
diagnosis,
as a
from his
mother,
diagnosis to
till
till
him becoming an
has
author of
become
the
a
book.
co-author. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks to
So,
Pasma and team for giving us this
yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as a mother, your journey, you have covered my next question also about training him in terms of communication, which you have very well explained. Now, you while narrating your journey, you mentioned about working on the communication skills rather on the therapy, right? The behavior. So, can you just throw some more light on that so that many parents understand? Because many times they feel that behavioral therapy is the first thing to go for, then comes the communication. So here you have a say that it is communication that you have to look on to, then come to the behavior, because obviously through that only you can come to behavior. So can you just put some more light on this?
So as I say, every behavior is a communication. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
use the word behavior. Every action is a communication. And when
Hmm.
I talk about communication, I'm not just talking about
Yeah.
communication through language or verbal
Huh.
communication. Communication
Okay.
is way deep down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so when I started working on communication, of course, what is my learning from RTI?
Hmm.
That when a child is developing, when a child is infant, it's non-verbal communication
Hmm.
which is more important. Because the
Okay.
foundation is the non-verbal communication, what we also call as broadband communication. So
Okay.
my child, every typical child, first in the first 1.5 years of life, really understands non-verbal communication very well. And if you
Hmm.
look at the foundations of speech and communication, like joint attention, imitation, pointing, so many things, right? It is very
Hmm.
non-verbal in nature. So,
Hmm.
so very first step which I took in helping Dyutit to communicate was non-verbal communication. I started using a lot of non-verbal communication. I
Hmm.
reduced my language a lot. I reduced the instructions a lot. I
Hmm.
reduced the prompting also.
Hmm. Hmm.
Facilitation was there, but prompting wasn't there. So there is a difference between facilitating, helping the child
Hmm.
to connect to himself, and help the
Hmm.
child to feel successful in everything he does. I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
cautious that he should not feel failed.
Hmm.
Whatever he does, he should feel
Hmm.
successful. And that
Hmm.
is my role as a guiding, basically as a
Correct.
guide. That is what my guiding relationship is.
Correct. Correct.
So we worked a lot on non-verbal body language, and even the language I changed from what again from
Hmm.
instrumental language to declarative. Means instrumental language is whenever we talk to our children to get something, get an
Hmm.
answer, or to get a
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So which color is this? I need an answer. Have you eaten?
Hmm.
What did you eat? So we are
Hmm.
always expecting an answer which is right or wrong. So that
Okay.
puts our children in a lot of anxiety because then they do not know whatever they're going to answer is right or wrong. And if they're not right, they always perceive failure. So
Hmm.
that is what guiding relationship is, that we do not have to go through a sense of failure. If we ask too many questions for which the answer has to come, and I'm judging that answer by being right or wrong, it's a failure for them. Guiding
Correct.
relationship is very deep down.
Oh.
So the way I started interacting got
Mm-hmm.
changed, and it's more
Hmm.
declarative where I just
Hmm.
make comments. Oh,
Hmm.
this t-shirt looks good. So rather than asking, what color is this? Right? This t-shirt looks good. Red looks good on you.
Hmm. So in a
Presuming
way,
competence. Yeah, that I know that he knows the color red. I mean, he's 10 years
correct,
over. I mean, like
correct.
he was already 10, say. Now he's going
Uh,
to be 18
uh,
soon, but
uh,
10. Presuming competent, the child who's 10 years old would know the color red. So why should I ask that again and again, or why should I even teach it?
correct.
Changing that, then so non-verbal communication helped him to be more observant of the
Hmm.
environment. And when the
Hmm.
child is more observant of the environment, because of co-regulation, child is more aware of himself. And that's where the
Hmm.
thought process starts. And when that awareness starts emerging, then like teaching him to type, those were like skill development, which we
That
have
comes
to do.
on. Yes,
With
yes.
typing, we have to teach any child. It's not
Anytime, correct.
they come ready with that skill.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
all those
Hmm.
things we still have to do. But before that, what we have to do, that is very
Work
important.
on that.
Yes,
Correct.
connecting to his thought process, his self, what he likes, what he
Hmm.
dislikes,
Hmm.
right? What
Hmm.
affects him, what makes him
Hmm.
happy. So that
Hmm.
understanding and what does what is his perception about the things around him,
Hmm.
and whatever he says, whatever he perceives, whatever he
Hmm.
expresses is right. There's nothing wrong about it. It's
Yeah.
just his point of view. The more I started validating his thought processes, more I kind of started giving a confidence that you have a beautiful thought process. That
Correct.
built a lot of motivation in him to even
Hmm.
communicate more. And
Hmm.
there was a point where he hated to communicate or type. He came to a point where he started loving communication. Then he
Hmm.
really wanted to learn typing. That's how, and
Hmm.
then the rest of them were the tools, right? Using the easy tools and using ACE software, then teaching the
Hmm.
typing,
Hmm.
and then have communication with him, have engagement with him, and giving him opportunities. Heard, heard by the entire world. So
Yes.
we made some movies on him right from the beginning. We used to share his screenshots of his. That's
Means the
how,
bond between you and your son was through this communication that made you understand him very well, right? Now,
yes.
coming on to one question that I want to know, as a co-author, when you were so happy to see him there as a co-author, so I would like to know your favorite lines from his book as a
Yeah.
co-author from Talking Fingers,
So
and
when yes. Sorry, please finish.
yeah, I wanted to know your favorite lines from what Dvitit has answered, because after this we'll be checking with Dvitit and his answers. We'll be
Okay.
listening to that. So your favorite lines from his answers that he has given to the questions, 25 questions that has been shared by editor Padma ma'am. So, and your favorite lines and also your message to parents as well as the community.
That's actually my favorite line is what Udit wrote in his blog. When we published the blog, and the last line, when I read that line, when he wrote it, I was like mesmerized. So he actually finished his blog with that line. That for me, my speech is voiceless. Can you
Hmm.
think about it? My
Beautiful.
speech is
It's
voiceless.
voiceless.
Speech is all about voice.
Yeah,
The way I talk is voiceless.
correct,
Are you able to hear it? It's not that I'm not able to talk. I'm talking, but I'm talking voiceless.
correct.
Thought that that idea that really touched my heart. And I think if I have to kind of, of course, he has talked so many things, he has said so many things, and in the past. And, but if that one line, which I would say that can change the world, that has
Correct.
changed me, and then that can change the world is for me, my speech is voiceless. That is my favorite
Very
line.
correct. It's a very touching line, actually.
Yeah, because that completely makes me to understand this world. How tough
Correct.
speech is, and that's the only thing we are focusing on. That's the only thing we
Mm,
want for them. But they are
mm,
not made to do that. They're not designed to do that.
correct.
And we are not even looking at the things they're designed to do.
Hmm.
So if my child is born and who has this difficulty, then rather than changing the child,
Hmm.
with the child. My message to the world is understand them and accept them, what their love language is, what their social language is, what they are. So, this is what child is diagnosed, we take them to a therapy center, put them with a therapist, and ABC goes really bad and ABC goes really bad, and we have this ABC expecting that
Don't go for it.
fall into that box.
Understand.
Not fall into that box, right? In the end, why have I chosen parent empowerment? It's a lifelong
Hmm.
journey. And in the
Hmm.
end, understanding the difference, as I say, accepting the difference and understanding the challenge is very important. And we
Hmm.
cannot change our children to behave the way we do. We have to
Correct.
understand that the challenges or the differences are deep down, and
Hmm.
that is the part of their persona. So
True. Very
acceptance
true.
is uh, having them or let the world see them unfiltered with that persona. Let's not try to filter it. Like Dyutit will come now, he's very much here, and he will be showing all those traits. That persona of autism, right? That those characteristics of autism, that uh, and the innocence they bring, the purity they bring. Katena, that my team calls me Dyutit Unfiltered 101.
Hmm.
So that yeah,
Yeah, I
that is
think we would love to continue this, but I think
yes.
our time
Dyutit,
also is ticking. So
Dyutit,
we will
come.
start with. I would like
Dyutit,
the audience to.
yes. Dyutit, see, Auntie has some questions from you. I'm sorry if I take longer time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like we can play the question that is Dwitit wants to answer the way your life changed before and after you started to communicate. So that can be answered. And in the meantime, I would like to request our audience that if you have not gone through this book, Talking Fingers, Volume 1, Volume 2, please grab your copies. The link will be shared in the comment section. So here, let's hear Dwitit answer.
Shall I play the question? Shall I play the
Yes,
answer?
yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. So Dutya is answering the question about the way his life changed before and after he started communication. Yes, Dutya.
Ask them to unmute, please.
Ma'am, unmute because your voice is not
One second,
audible.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, ready. Okay.
Anything. I knew so many things in it. Press one second.
Yes, we have the
I
voice
had faced
message.
difficulties when my means of communication was limited. I was not understood by people and they thought that I didn't know anything. I knew so many things and it frustrated me whenever people questioned my abilities. I knew math, English, and physics. Because I was not able to communicate, I was taught ABC all the time, which made me feel like people did not believe in me. After I learned communication, I felt empowered to share my thoughts and feelings with the world. I felt like I was responsible to spread awareness about my difficulties that I turned into accomplishments with support and love.
So well said, Dwitit, that every one of us should understand what exactly is going through. Padma ma'am is here and she's completely agree that they are always communicating and we just have to listen with our hearts and give them a means to share their thoughts with the world. So well done, Dwitit.
His, uh,
And
his answer on sensory is so amazing. So
yeah,
I think if one more answer, we can play the
yeah,
sensory
yeah, yeah, yeah,
question.
please.
I think
Yeah, and
just
then we,
that
yeah,
will be like, I think that is my message to the world, I would say. His
okay.
answer about his sensory system, I think he has answered this question for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is about his sensory world in his own world. Dvitit is answering. So let's listen to this.
My sensory world feels like a very crowded space where people are talking over each other. Machines turned on, children screaming, and somehow I have to get from one end to another with my eyes half open. The world around me will always be faster than my senses. I just take a little longer than others to understand. Once I do, there is nothing that stops me from sharing what I truly feel. The sensory difficulties will always persist. I will always have trouble socially. But what is important is that I am given the space and support to flourish into my potential. I am understood and accepted for who I am and where my limitations lie.
I think he said it all. We need to give space and understand. So well expressed with it. This message will go loud with everyone. And once again, thank you so much, Mini Ma'am, for joining us. Thank you, Dyutit, for being part of this Talking Fingers series. And again, a humble request to all our audience listeners, do grab the copy of Talking Fingers if you haven't yet purchased, and please go through these wonderful answers by this loving authors, co-authors. Thank you so much, and
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. You can say bye bye.
bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank